Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who for the second video in a row is covering a Scandinavian post-punk punk genre mashup band that has something to do with dogs. This time it's a Norwegian band just simply called The Dogs and their album Mortem, Portraits of Loneliness. Now listen, this band, I don't know anything about them. Okay, it's hard. Usually I like to look up maybe one or two reviews or look up a Wikipedia page. I can't find anything about them except for a few user-generated comments on a couple of their videos, okay? So I don't know, maybe I need to look in Norwegian, but this band is coming to me and I know very little about them. I will tell you, if you look up on Google, post-mortem and dogs, you're going to find some very dark things, which I will discuss at the end of this video. I don't suggest you stick around. But I will tell you, the one thing I was able to find out about this album is there's something of an institution in Norway. Now, I can just see my views just tanking. Unless there's like a huge population surge of people in Norway who are so happy that an American is finally reviewing The Dogs, I anticipate that no one's going to watch this video. But in Norway, apparently this band is like an institution. Every single year, around the first week of January, they release a new album. They record it in the summer and they release it in January. And according to those comments that I read on YouTube, this band is all about their live performance. And it really makes sense when you listen to the music. It's a great mix-up of many high-powered genres. It's mostly just hard-driving rock with a little bit of punk. They have tons of bridges, which are basically just pop-punk bridges, very kind of catchy and melodic. At times, the singer sings with a death metal-ish growl. It's a very interesting mishmash of sounds and genres. And I will say that the first time I listened to it, I'm like, yes, this is great, I like it. Halfway through, I'm like, this is garbage, I don't like it. Second time I listened to it, I'm like, it's actually kind of okay. And by the third time, I came up with, I figured something out. I figured out what it is that I like about this. I'm gonna get to that soon. The thing about this album is that it's like, there's two main musical elements that are just spectacularly loud and spectacularly high in the mix. One of them is a guitar, which is quite welcome. It's nice to have a guitar in a rock album, right? You don't get that much anymore. And the other is this organ sound. I don't know, I can't tell if it's good or bad how loud the organ is throughout this entire album. But it does make it kind of different because everywhere you go, just everywhere you go, there's organ. Thematically, it is extremely dark. It's mostly about darkness and death and misery and disappointment, the stupidity of humanity. I get the sense there might be actual death in the lead singer or whoever it is that writes these lyrics. There might be actual death that's actually been lived through. I can't quite tell. It sort of vacillates between sort of almost campy darkness and a sort of real darkness. And it was on that third listen that I figured out what is it about this post-punk, punk, rock, mashup, Norwegian death pop metal band that I liked. And this is going to sound completely bizarre, but I think it reminds me a lot of the solo work of Morrissey. Morrissey has a similar, obviously somewhat campy take on dark lyrics, a kind of winking tongue-in-cheek darkness. Also, in his solo work, there's kind of a rockabilly, just very exciting, very good in a live setting, sort of anthemic songs that have nice extended melodies. I don't know. I don't know if anyone in Norway likes Morrissey or not. This might be a point where there's people who like Morrissey who don't care about the Dogs, and there's people who like the Dogs and don't care about Morrissey, and I'm just making videos for nobody. I don't care. I do this channel for me. But I don't know, you tell me, if you're a Morrissey fan or if you're a Dogs fan, could you not imagine Morrissey singing every single one of these songs? I think it would work just right. I mean, I like the singer the way that he is, but that's what made me really kind of love this album, is realizing it fits in that very weird genre of rocking, campy, dark music that is very good live. So here's what I do. Before I go through the album track by track, I'm starting something new this year of assigning homework. So I'm going to put up there a link to the song I Want You to Listen To by the Dogs, okay? So have a listen. This is the first song on the album, so I'll be discussing it soon. And this is what I want you to listen for, you know? This weird mixture of like growling vocals, kind of death metal-y vocals. You know, when I heard they were from Norway, and then I heard this, I'm like, oh, okay. It's gonna be Scandinavian death metal. Not at all. But then the 60s style organ and the pulsing guitars, these bleak, wonderful lyrics, the idea of who is not, the song is called Who Is Not Doing Great. And it's a party anthem for the dispossessed. It's a party anthem for the sad. Like, raise your hands if you're sad. Raise your hands if you're not doing great. Raise your hands if you're tired. Do you know how brave you have to be as a public speaker of any kind? I don't care if you're a speaker, a teacher, a professor like me. I don't even teach my students the word tired. Because the second you use the word tired, everyone starts to get tired, like Toby over here when he yawns in your face with his terrible dragon breath, right? So like, who's not doing great? Just over and over again. Life does not go on. It just goes nowhere except away, right? I mean, like a funny, dark, goofy lyric, right? Great drums swirling all over the place, like kind of a swirling craziness, just these drums just going everywhere right before the bridge. And with all of it, we have this bridge, which really reminds me of like My Chemical Romance, like a nice pop, kind of slightly descending, a little bit cleaner guitar bridge. And I think this song encapsulates exactly what makes this band sort of interesting, sort of frustrating, is that it's all these genres all mixed up. And I wonder too, I don't think they have much of an international audience, at least I can't tell if they do. So is this just for Norwegians? And do they just sing in English because Norwegians are so good at English, they just might as well, and that's the way they're used to listening to pop music? Can you tell me, if you are a fan of the Dogs and you are Norwegian, why don't they sing in Norwegian? Is it just like a taste thing? Because it seems like if this band is a yearly tradition in Norway, and if they're popular in Norway, they're apparently a Norwegian supergroup comprised of members of a lot of bands I've never heard of. Why are they not singing in Norwegian? I don't know. The next track is called Do You Wanna Die, which is just a great chorus. Do you wanna die? There is a real like straight punk aspect to this album too, like a chorus that just goes, do you wanna die? And a verse where they just scream, liar! And it's punctuated. It's kind of like legitimately hard punk for most of the song with another pop punk bridge. Icicles of blood melting in the mud. And then there's sort of a guitar solo that reminds me of like the Munsters. Now, I'm really narrowing my audience even further. People who know about Morrissey, people who know about the Dogs, and people who have watched the 1960s horror sitcom The Munsters. But there you go. The Storm is nice because you actually get a fair amount of the Norwegian accent from the singer here. He's not growling, so you can kind of hear it. I like hearing authentic accents. You know, last album I reviewed, the first part of the Dogs in Scandinavia series was Viagra Boys, and it kind of annoyed me how at times there'd be sort of a southern accent affected here. Here it's just a Norwegian accent. We are surviving storms and lighting lanterns. Very punishing guitar, very punishing drums and simple guitar, nice mixture there. Great lyrics. We'll never get out of this storm when everything leads to nothing. There's no such thing as home. Interesting idea, no such thing as home. Nature is never good, nor are its lessons. I like that very much. As you will learn when I discuss with you what happens with post-mortem and dogs when you look that up. It's not good for people. Nature is not good, right? And its lessons aren't good. I don't think it's a good idea to think about nature as being something good. I think of it much more as something that just is. And that's kind of an interesting and profound lyric, and I really think that this album is filled with those interesting and profound lyrics. Next track is called Someone, which is an unexpected sort of love song, or like a longing for love song. Let's get Toby on camera. He's much more interesting, right? Sort of like a harmonica begins the song, and it's sort of like this melody is being played. It almost reminds me of like a 90s grunge ballad, or even a Guns N' Roses ballad. I need someone who will tell me this will be okay. Could this be you? It's kind of a maudlin, silly love song, but it's nice because it breaks up this kind of punk rock feeling. I mean that like punk, comma, rock feeling. This mixture that's always going in between something punkish and something just straight rock. Then it goes right back with the 4 hi-hat opening, forced hands, back to rocking again, organs just everywhere, just organs everywhere. I hate you for turning the past into the present. That's how wounds sometimes transform into weapons. Again, like sort of campy, dark lyrics, but I think they're nice. I hate you for turning the past into the present. It's an interesting idea. A cool kind of like goofy, shaky voice in the chorus here, which is nice. Not like yelling or growling, but just kind of shaky. The accent comes back again. And then another pop punk element in this album, though this is really in the chorus, which is almost croonerish. This is, when I look through my notes, you know, I type up my notes as I listen the first time, and you can start to see how I'm starting to get this little hint that maybe there's something Morrissey-ish to this kind of crooner thing here. And the drummer is a great drummer for just beating the hell out of the drums. If you like drummers who beat the hell out of the drums, this is the album for you. Next track is called Meet Vulgarity. More sustained organs everywhere, really committed to the organ thing. Very nice mixture of this growl and these high voices in the background. I'd like to see more of this, kind of like interplay between multiple voices and a growl. Maybe they've done that on their other 9 albums that they've released in the past 10 years. So many pointless people, so many disposable lives, it's all just meat vulgarity. Okay, I guess it's sort of a nihilistic song. There's a couple of sort of nihilistic or misanthropic songs on this album, sort of like People Are Garbage. This is one of those. The drummer's doing some great work on the snare in this. And then the next track is Everything Will Be Worse in the Morning. And this is where it feels like he might be singing about actual loss in his actual life. It seems like he's talking about living with somebody as they're dying of cancer. I can't quite tell. I will say that the dark tone of this album fits pretty well with the turn into 2021, everyone's general sad state right now. And the idea of everything will be worse in the morning, taking that tired cliche of everything will be better in the morning and turning it around. This reminds me a little bit of that Someone song in the way that it's a little bit more downbeat. It's a lot more bass-driven, a lot really about death. And the organ is basically not here, so that's kind of nice, having a little break. And just this line, going on is what death does for a living. Interesting, you know, it's like kind of a joke, right? Like, oh, what does death do for a living? But that is probably the overarching theme to this whole album, is death is relentless. Happy New Year! I should be better. The organ comes back. You cannot keep this organ player down. I don't know if he's... sorry, Toby started looking. I don't know if he's like... If he's funding the band, does he own the amps? Is that why the organs are so loud? If I had a problem with this album, is that at times it feels like it's just like there's like a setting on a keyboard. It just says make a rock song and they press that button and then walk away. It does get a little bit tiring. Unfound in Darkness is the penultimate track. Double guitars just wailing in the beginning. Again, there's so much good guitar work on this album, and if you are somebody who misses rock and roll with lots of guitar, this is an album for you. This is a very misanthropic song. I don't do friends, I don't do crowds. Reminds me a little bit of Ain't Nice by Viagra Boys from the other part of my Dog's duology. But it's not it's not as interesting to me. It doesn't quite grab me as much. It's just sort of a general thing of I don't like people. And then it ends with the track Hope This Is a Coma. Kind of an interesting line. Again, the organ is everywhere. A nice melody here, and the vocals, you hear that slight Norwegian accent as well. And he hopes that whatever he's having is a wonderful dream. And this, on the third listen, is where I go, oh my God, this is why it reminds me of Morrissey. Hope This Is a Coma would be a perfect Morrissey-style song title. It's a long title that's a little bit dry, a little bit dark, a little bit unexpected, very witty, nice extended crooner melody throughout the entire song, and I think it would work quite well. So there you go. I hope you did your homework and you listened to the song and you determined if you want to hear more. I do like this album. It's not going to be like Viagra Boys. I'm not going to order it on Bandcamp right now, but I am happy to have listened to it. And so now, as I promised, I will tell you the horrible, horrible truth that pops up. And I want you boys to listen to this. If you type in post-mortem and dogs into Google, you want to talk about nature? What's the term? Nature is not good? right? Okay. One of the last lines of the album, by the way, is, "Now they have come to confiscate our bones." Let's hear about this article that you find about what dogs do when people die of an overdose in their apartment. Post-mortem animal depredation is not an uncommon phenomenon in routine forensic autopsies. We present 3 cases of complete post-mortem decapitation by domestic dogs. In 2 cases, the head had been bitten off. The head of the human had been bitten off, defleshed, and left lying near the body, while in 1 case, it had been completely devoured by 2 dogs. Who's my popo? 2 of the 3 bodies were putrefied. All dog bite injuries had been inflicted after death. Oh, okay. The cause of death was drug toxicity. So, you know, I don't do drugs, so I'm not going to die of drug toxicity. And if I do die and these boys get hungry, they can eat my head. It's on that weird, somber, dark note that I end this video, which will surely be viewed by nobody. I've already walked the dogs, I've already fed them. That's why they're not really performing much on camera, but that's okay. So until next time, in this weird beginning of the year where there's not much to review, I hope you are staying safe. And Bo, now you're up. The whole video, you've just been absent. All right, there's the camera.